Right, hey, how's it going? Ryan Dieger here, and this is another episode in the series Learn, Design, and Code. So today what we're going to be doing for some design practice is we're going to be replicating this kind of blog column section over on nativeinstruments.com. So nothing really crazy, your kind of 3-column layout, but again, I'm going to show you how quickly we can kind of replicate something like this using the Tailwind's utility framework for CSS. So let's just get right into it here. I'm going to use CodePen for this. And again, the main purpose of this exercise is to really just kind of give yourself something to practice with. Again, I think one of the hardest things when you're first learning something is really coming up with original ideas. So I think if the choice is between coming up with an original idea or copying something that's existing, I'd rather focus on copying something that's existing if that means I can just get to work. So we've got our Tailwinds imported here. This is definitely using some sort of a container. You can kind of tell just based on the kind of alignment of everything here. There's definitely a container on this page. So again, Tailwinds has a container. Has a container in it, container utility class, so we can use that. And again, we're going to make this, we're going to make our debug class, which is always very helpful for helping with layout. So just looking at this design real quick, I'm gonna actually split this just so you can get a better sense of where we're going here. So we've got, again, your typical 3 columns here. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to use Flexbox. And so what we basically need is, you can kind of see that within each of these columns, you kind of have these, you could call it like an article, or like a kind of a article or a card container. So we've got our image, we've got the article title, the a preview of the content, and then a date, and looks like a category type tag at the bottom here. And nothing too crazy. This is all kind of a overlapping content, or just kind of blocks, kind of row by row here. So I guess let's create a flex kind of container here, or flex div, and then we're going to set we're going to do a class of flex1, and what that's going to do is make sure that we're going to create 3 of these flex1 classes or divs, and then what that's basically going to do is when you have these flex child, this is going to set these to a flex value of 1. So then what that's going to do is each column is going to take up the same amount of space when we use this flex1 class here. So let's get an image. We're going to do this one at a time, just so we can get kind of all the styling done, and then we'll kind of copy that to the next one here. So very handy trick if you want to, again, if you're copying an existing layout or an existing design, rather than dragging and saving these images to your computer, just right click, copy image address, and then you can easily link to that from there. I guess let's also add in this more features title here. And again, this is fairly big text, so let's do 4XL, even bigger. And then, as you can see, there's some pretty big tracking going on, and what tracking is the space between the letters here. you can see, it's quite wide. And again, Tailwinds has a utility class for that. You just do tracking wider, maybe even widest. So it's probably not as big as it needs to be, but again, we're just working with the utilities that are here for now. We can also, this is also looks like bigger font or a larger font weight. So let's try medium. Maybe it's bold. Actually, another handy tool you can get for Safari here is called Font Face Ninja, and basically you can hover over any anything on a page, and it will tell you what kind of it'll give you the font properties for it. So as you can see, we've got 18 pixels and 25 pixels for line height. Here it's 96 pixels and pretty big font tracking. You can see it's 14 pixels. So we're just going to stick with this for now. And again, we can also set the color by doing text-color and then the color intensity. So it's pretty light. Can't see it. So let's maybe do 400. All right, so we got that title there. All right, so now let's work on our let's work on this kind of article section here. So we've got an image, and now we just need, we'll do an H3. We'll just copy and paste this. And we got this little section down here. It's outside of our div here. Let's widen that out a bit so it's easier to see. There we go. And then we'll add another span. And these are, again, these are links. So we'll add these together, and we'll add another one for this one. All right, so so the font size on these is actually pretty small, so let's shrink that a little bit. Then we're going to add a some top margin to the span here. That is not working for some reason. So probably not as much That looks about right for the margin there. And then let's add our font weight. That's actually probably medium. And again, we'll add some top margin to this. We'll just wrap this whole span here in a div. And this is all pretty small. So we're just going to use this text class to shrink everything. And we'll also pull this out and see how kind of big our content here is. You know what, we can actually probably just eliminate these spans here and then just have the just a single A, or yeah, the two A tags inside this single span. And let's set this to flex, and this should cause these elements to actually, yeah, fall in line. Maybe even have to go to extra small for this. So we kind of got our layout here. Now we can probably mess with our colors a little bit. So let's set this to color gray 900. And we'll set this one this text. Too light. Just gonna switch this real quick. I'll add our class margin left 2. All right, so we've got our card here, and looks pretty good. The font size, the font is obviously not exact because we are using a different font. We can also let's move this up a little bit to fit with this, fit directly underneath basically, again, there's negative margin utility classes in Tailwind. You simply do minus or negative MT, so margin top, and then the value or the scale for the margin. So yeah, we kind of got this laid out here. Now, if we want to make the rest of this content, so we're actually I'll delete those, and then I'm just gonna replicate this 3 times. This whole, I'm just gonna fold it real quick and say that, and then that should give us our 3 columns. Now, as you can see, they are right side by side. Unlike the design that we're copying here, we actually have some margin here. So we just need to give these other columns some margin. I'm gonna fold these real quick because this is getting a little hard to follow. So I got my 3 columns here. So I'm going to do margin left. Let's try 2. I'm doing that to the first one. Let's go here again, add 4 there, and there's probably not the same amount of space, but so if we want to get picky, you can add that. And let's also just see where our kind of container here is on everything. All right, so now we can just start swapping some of this stuff out here. Now, what's going to happen here when we go to add this other category? We could do this in a separate row, which would be handy. Or actually, yeah, let's just do two separate rows here. Get rid of that margin top there, and we'll actually set the margin top on this one. Let's kind of turn off our debug and see how that kind of looks. Not bad. Let's try 10. Yeah, I think that's a good amount here. So let's start swapping some of these elements in here. So again, the really handy thing with using these utility classes is you know that things are going to be consistent throughout your design. You don't have to worry about setting a bunch of different margin values. You simply use the utility classes, and if you decide you need more, you need less, you can just adjust the number up and down. So it's pretty sweet. Let's give us some more space to work with here. Go to our first section. And now this is really just a matter of getting our content into place. So let's So the great thing with Flexbox too is that it's automatically going to basically stretch out all these columns to be the same height based on the length of kind of the longest, based on the height of the longest kind of child here. So as an example, if I hit debug right now, so let's use this one here as an example. I'm going to hit debug, add my class there, and as you can see, we've got this extra space here at the bottom, and that's because this column is actually stretching to be the same size as this column here, because this is our longest one. And you'll see if I go, let's say I just duplicate this paragraph from the first column again, you can see our debug, our red outline is going to keep following this no matter how long it gets. So we can do this as many times as we want. And again, we don't have to worry about setting the height or anything, because again, these columns are all just going to stay aligned up top. They're going to stretch to be the height of the largest column. And then on top of that, our next row is again nicely aligned. We don't have to worry about don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to clear this up. We're back here. And we could set these other elements, but we're just going to leave it for now just to replicate, or just to keep going. Go to our next row. And again, a good a benefit to doing this kind of copy work as well is that it helps you kind of notice certain things in the design that you may not have realized here. So again, even though the layout of this is the same, you can tell that they don't. There's a visual difference here with this clearly, and a lot of that again has to do with stuff like the font choices, and again even the images which you don't have control over. So this can be a good way to kind of recognize and learn that, okay, like it looks the same, but it maybe doesn't look as kind of polished or as kind of refined as this design on the right. And again, that can be because of the extra details that go into things like the font here having this kind of cool tracking, this wide tracking between the letters, and again, even the choice of the font, it definitely has its own kind of style. So again, we'll just quickly add this here, and that will kind of wrap this up pretty quick. And this can also be a good way, again, to recognize things like even the font sizes, or the image sizes. This is definitely very kind of a small aspect ratio. This isn't like a square image or a widescreen image. So yeah, it can even help you kind of pay attention just to the different choices in things like the image size and the aspect ratios. These are very deliberately set as kind of these smaller, kind of tight, wide images. Again, instead of just being your kind of 16:9 widescreen or a square 1:1 aspect ratio like we're seeing here with the Instagram images. just going to copy the rest of this here. So yeah, trying to keep these live streams a little short, but yeah, it sometimes takes a little longer just to put these together. One last thing to kind of comment on while doing this sort of copy work too is I think it can be really helpful to use something like CodePen. Again, because this isn't a full-on website, or like I didn't, again, copy the entire layout here. I just focused on this specific kind of section in this specific element. It's kind of nice having it visible, and other people can kind of find it and peek through it. And again, it helps keep your files down on the computer, so you don't need to have as many. And also a visual way to show it off here. So a couple last things here just to wrap this up. I keep saying that, but this will really be it. So as you can see, this is definitely responsive because we placed everything inside of this single container div, which again is a utility class that is part of Tailwind. So that is basically handling our kind of media queries for these designs. As you can see, as I resize it, these are quite similar. And so what's going to happen now, so I can get this really small, which I probably don't want. Here we can see that they actually eventually squish this down to just two. To just two columns instead of three. And as very typical with these kind of layouts, eventually we get to a single column layout. But we're running a little long now, so I'm probably going to skip over that portion of it. I guess we could go to something like, let's set this to flex wrap and see what kind of the default behavior is here. So eventually it does wrap to two columns. But as you can see, it is right up against the edge of the container here, which we may not want. But again, for the most part, the design kind of got us, has taken care of a lot of the layout. So all that's really left at this point now would be to, again, get it to go to that single column layout. But this is already running a little long, so we'll wrap it up with that and continue in another live stream. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good day.